A few weeks ago, I made this router table extension for my table saw, and it has been absolutely perfect, except one small thing. Because the router has nothing surrounding it underneath the table, the dust goes absolutely everywhere and is making a giant mess. Now sure, there are already tons of commercial products like these that definitely would work. However, they're really expensive, and as a woodworker, I can build my own stuff, right? So today, let's grab some plywood and some basic tools and build out this router table extension so it has perfect dust collection on Spenceley Design Co. As far as materials go, you truly can make this out of whatever you want. I just had some scrap plywood laying around that's 5/8 inches thick, so that's what I'm gonna be using. And whenever I'm using scraps like this, I always like to take a second to take the plans that I have and try to figure out the most efficient way to cut everything down so I don't waste more material than I need to. Speaking of those plans, if you want to build this project for yourself, I'll leave a link down below in the description where you can download everything that you need for this project. And if you're curious to learn more about any of the tools that you see me using during this video, there is an exhaustive list of everything down below, including links for you to learn more about all of the tools. Overall, this project seems really simple, but simple projects are where you can also make some big mistakes. For example, if you just assume that all the corners of the plywood are perfectly square, sure, you could make all of your cuts using the rip fence. But in order for the box to go together perfectly, utilizing a crosscut sled like this one that I built a while back ensures that all of your pieces are cut precisely and you're not stuck fumbling around with pieces that don't actually have 90-degree corners on them. But instead of watching me cut down plywood, let's jump into SketchUp to see how this is all going to come together. So here's a digital depiction of my table saw. Over here, that's where I put the router table extension in a few weeks ago. So underneath, I need to make up a box that allows me to capture all of the dust that the router generates. So let's isolate that box to make things just a little bit clearer. There we go. Alright, so this is super simple. There are really only 3 different size pieces that you need to cut. 1 bottom panel, 2 side panels, and 2 front or back panels. Just depends on how you look at them. And I guess that's it, but things will get a touch more intricate later on in the video, so let's just jump back into the shop. So with all those pieces cut down that are gonna make the dust collection box that goes underneath the router table, it's time to just put the box together. And yes, there are 1,000 ways to put together a box. You could use dominoes, biscuits, brad nails, just glue, whatever you want. But what I'm gonna use today, and to make this go faster so I can finally get this project done, I'm just gonna use some pocket holes. The comment section of YouTube videos is always full of people proclaiming that one joinery method is superior to another. But when it comes to building a simple shop project, especially one that will never be subjected to any force,
See, nobody cares.
it's completely irrelevant what you use. There is no sense in being a gatekeeper trying to tell certain people that they are or they are not a woodworker because of the joinery methods that they use. As long as you are enjoying what you are building, use whatever joinery method you want. Just have fun with this stuff. Once all of the pocket holes are drilled in, it's time to connect the panels together with some pocket hole screws. One inconvenience about using pocket hole screws is that since they attach at an angle, they do have a tendency to shift the pieces slightly out of alignment. But this can easily be fixed by clamping everything together before driving in those screws. So next time you're using pocket holes, try this method and let me know how it works for you. All right, so after putting that box all together, you'll probably notice that there's no front on it yet, and that's because I'm gonna do that step probably last. The front is gonna have a little piece that goes right about here, and I'm gonna cut this in half. That way the bottom of it can fold down and you can reach inside to adjust the speed of the router and everything like that. But while the box is still open and that front isn't on yet, I wanna focus my attention on the back side right here. I picked up this dust collection port and I wanna add this onto the back of the router box. That way I can just take my dust collection hose, connect them together, and get perfect dust collection. So obviously I already marked out lines to make sure this thing's perfectly centered, and I can just place it on here and then take my pencil and mark out the inside. I grabbed just some random sized drill bit and drilled a few holes into the back of the box so that my jigsaw blade has a place to cleanly start the cut. If you've ever tried cutting veneer plywood like this with a jigsaw and experienced some really bad tear out, that's likely because you have the orbital action on your jigsaw turned all the way up. That effectively makes the cut really aggressive and it makes it faster. However, that causes a ton of tear out. My tip is take that orbital action and turn it all the way down. Yes, it'll make the saw cut much slower, but as you can see, there's no tear out. And this is a really old blade too. And for even more accuracy, stick your tongue out, because my girlfriend noticed that every time I'm trying to focus on something, I do this. I love the taste of sawdust. So with the hole in the back of the dust box cut out, I can definitely just take the dust port, put it on top, and fire a couple screws in. But you're not a real worker unless you absolutely overcomplicate and overdesign everything that you make, right? So to make sure that this is sealed super well, I'm first gonna take some black silicone caulk and put it all around the seams here. That way there's absolutely no air loss. And this tube's just about to expire and I don't want it to go to waste. This caulk is 100% unnecessary. I honestly just hate to see things go to waste, so I figured instead of tossing this in the trash, I might as well try to tighten up some seams, right? That caulk, whoops, meant to say caulk, not cock. That's embarrassing. That caulk will cause the dust collection fitting to slide around a bit, so after holding it down with a few clamps, I drilled some holes through the fitting and the box that allow me to throw some bolts in and securely fasten everything together. It's completely over-engineered and I love every second of it. And yes, I know that I'm not good at working with caulk. Gotta be careful what I say there, but no one's ever gonna see this. It's the inside of a box. So now that the main box is all constructed, what I need to do next is focus my attention on making that door. And that door is gonna be right here on the front of the router table. That way I can easily reach underneath the table and have access to changing the speed of the router depending on what size bit that I'm using. And for a lot of people, adding a door to something like this tends to be a little complicated or intimidating if you've never done it. But I wanna show you a super easy way that works every time. The first thing that you're gonna wanna do is cut a panel down. That way it fits over the front of the box just like you're completely closing it off. Then on the front of that panel, grab a pencil and mark out where you want that cut line to be. This is where you're gonna split the panel into two separate pieces. Then over at my table saw, I'm gonna set that piece down so that that blade is gonna cut perfectly down that line, and I'll adjust my fence. Where exactly you cut this panel is honestly irrelevant, as long as it creates a gap wide enough for you to fit your hand in. But mine was roughly 4.5 inches if you really wanna know. So that cut is gonna leave you with two separate pieces. The bottom piece is gonna be the piece that I actually wanna have fold down for the door, and then the top piece is gonna go right here. So with the top piece secured to the box, I want this piece to basically fold down right like that. And I've got these hinges that are gonna go right here and right here to allow that to happen. Hinges may seem like a nightmare, but Craig, the sponsor of today's video, makes tons of jigs like this concealed hinge jig and automated clamp that make the process effortless. Just twist on the drill cup, chuck up your drill out the hole, remove the cup, pre-drill the screw locations, remove the jig, and you've got yourself perfectly dialed in spots for your hinges. It's easy. These hinges are securely held in place with 2 small screws on each side, and they operate perfectly. To attach them to the main box, I'll line up the door and, using a fancy self-centering drill bit thing, drill some small pilot holes before securing the hinges down with some small screws. And now you've got yourself a perfectly functioning door.
Hold up just a second. I know this question is gonna get asked about why did I put the hinges so close to the middle and not go more out towards the side? And that's because I already kind of anticipate the dust collection not being perfect on this. And so one of my thoughts is that I can put some angled pieces here to make this not have such sharp corners where the dust is gonna get stuck into. So by putting those hinges more towards the middle, I can add this in the future if I need to. I knew you were gonna ask.
This door is obviously going to be pretty hard to open, so I'm gonna stick a handle on right about here. Craig makes this super simple cabinet hardware jig thing that aligns to the dead center of your door and has collars that guide your drill bit to drill a hole in the perfect spot. Just run the included hardware with the handle through the backside, tighten everything down, and you've got yourself a perfectly functioning door. Bingo. Now that that dust collection box is about done, I can attach... crap. I didn't think about the power cord. Sometimes the simple things really do slip my mind, but I can fix that with a little drum sander attachment thing on my drill and carve out a recess for the power cord. Alright, attempt number 2. Cord goes here, a few pocket hole screws to secure it to the table, and we are in business. Just connect the hose to the back, and you can see that I can easily reach in to adjust the speed whenever I need to.
So now that I've got that dust collection box hooked up underneath the router table, I know the question is gonna be, how good's the dust collection? So let's test it.
And I do want to say that if you're ever giving your router table this much dust at one time, you're probably doing something wrong. But I wanted to simulate a really intensive task to see if the system actually worked. The throat plate obviously limited the amount of dust that could be sucked up, so after removing it, this thing took dust like a champ.
So with all the sawdust collected through this router table box, let's take a look inside to see what it looks like. So as you can see, there's still quite a lot of dust here that's kind of collected around the corners and the sides. So what I think I'm gonna do is try to put some braces in all these corners to help push all of this more towards the center. But before I do that, the one thing that I noticed is the air sounds weird. It sounds like it's being restricted. So I'm thinking I might actually adjust the hinges to open up this gap between the door here. That way the air has a little bit more room to escape. Will that help? I have no idea, but let's try it.
I guarantee there's somebody down in the comments that knows much more about fluid dynamics than I do, but the small amount of research I did said that actually creating a little gap for air to escape might help. Anyway, I grabbed some scrap pieces that I had and ripped 45-degree angles on each side. This will allow the pieces to meet in the corners of the dust collection box and hopefully give a smooth pass for the dust and air to travel. I have no idea. So I can pop those pieces in right about here, and because I had the idea of locating the hinges towards the inside, there's no interference. When it was all said and done, it turned out to look like this hot mess. Again, I don't care that it looks awful. This is the inside of a dust collection box. Let's get this attached back underneath the table and see if the adjustments that I made make any difference.
Real quick, before I test out that system, if you made it this far in the video, leave a comment down below that starts with shrimp. I read every comment, so writing shrimp lets me know that you actually watched the video. So if you have any questions or just want to support what I'm doing here, leave a comment down below that starts with shrimp and I promise I'll get back to you. And if you'd like to support the channel even more, so I don't have to annoy you with ads about shaving your Body, consider picking up project plans or merch like a hat or a t-shirt from my online store. But let's get back to the build.
The first thing that I noticed is that adjusting that hinge to create a little bit more of a gap between the two pieces eliminated that really obnoxious whistling noise and seemed like it actually increased the suction. I know that I don't have any sort of quantitative observation, but it definitely felt stronger. So let's see how that bottom looks. Underneath the router, there is substantially less dust. Yes, some of it stuck to the silicone caulk, but I'm totally okay with this performance. And there's also a little pile underneath the router, but not bad at all.
I think I forgot to mention that I also put this power switch right here on the wall so I can easily start and easily stop the router without having to reach underneath. This simple dust box underneath the router table has made a massive improvement in my dust collection efforts. And while I do have the bottom of the router covered, I know you're gonna ask, what about the top? Well, to be honest with you, because the dust collection on the bottom of the router table is so good and so strong, I truly do not get a lot of buildup on the top of the table when I'm doing a lot of routing. But that hasn't stopped me from working on this prototype router fence. I know it doesn't look very good right now, but I'm working on making a router fence that'll slot over top of my existing table saw fence that'll be able to connect another dust hose to the top to really increase that dust collection. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on that and all my other future videos. If you would like to help support the channel, consider checking out my Patreon page or visiting my online store and picking up some merch like a hat or some build plans. And I'll see you on the next one.